The find was small. It was so small that it almost went unnoticed. Rachel had been looking at Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, without expecting to find anything. Every mission before this one had confirmed what they already knew. There was frozen water and a possible ocean below the surface, but no life. A dead rock circles a dead gas giant in a dead galaxy. She said, "There's a chemical signature in the ice plumes." As she pulled up the spectral analysis, "It's organic." The crew came to her station. Organic chemistry wasn't new. Amino acids and other building blocks had been found all over the solar system, but this was different. "It's complicated," Rachel said as she moved her finger quickly over the controls. "Not just simple organic molecule. This shows patterns. It's not a random distribution. There's order." Amira bent down. "Are you saying it's life?" "No, I'm saying it's not nothing." The next few hours were very busy. Rachel ran every test that the ship's limited tools could handle. The Pioneer Spirit wasn't meant to study planets up close. It was supposed to go out into space and not stay there. But this was too important to ignore. Carless changed their course, using the little maneuvering fuel they had left to get closer to the Europa without putting their main mission in danger. It became clearer what the data meant. The organic signatures were not random at all. They repeated themselves and were organized. There wasn't anything complicated enough to be called advanced life, but there was something that looked like biological processes. "It's like bacterial maths," Rachel said, sounding amazed. "Not complicated, but definitely alive. Under the ice, in that ocean that everyone thought about but no one could see. It's true, and it's not empty." Sarah's voice came from Earth, but it was delayed because of the distance. "Are you sure, Pioneer Spirit?" Rachel asked. "As sure as we can be without actually drilling through miles of ice," she said. "But yes, Control, we're looking at proof that life exists outside of Earth. Not smart, not advanced, but alive." The news spread to Earth and beyond. After 200 years of looking, people finally found life. Not the advanced societies they had hoped to find, not the people who were their equals, but life goes on. Simple organisms live in dark ocean under your past frozen shell and don't care at all about people. It was both sad and amazing. "We've always asked the wrong question," Jack said at a crew meeting. "We asked, 'Is anyone out there?' But maybe the question should have been, 'What is out there?' Life doesn't have to be smart to be important. It only has to be." The crew and the mission were excited by the discovery. They were no longer looking for civilizations from other planet. They were looking for life in all of its form. Proof that Earth wasn't the only bright spot in the dark. But Europa had other surprise in store. Carlos was looking over the trajectory data as they were getting ready to leave Jupiter's orbit when he saw something strange. "The slingshot maneuver," he said slowly. "Our exit speed is higher than we thought it would be." "How much higher?" Amira asked. 12%. "That shouldn't be possible with how much gas we use." Thomas opened the logs for the propulsion. "The hybrid drive system. When all the three systems work together during the gravity assist, they made a resonance effect. The efficiency went up by 40% for about 6 minutes." Nina said. "That's not possible. You can't just make energy out of thin air." "We didn't make energy," Jack said, looking at the data with more and more interest. "We made the conversion better. We designed the three different drive systems to work together, but we never pushed them all at the same time this hard. They synced up in a way we didn't expect because of the stress of gravity." Dimitri opened up simulation models. "If we can copy this effect and set off this resonance on purpose, we could go much faster than we planned." The crew spent the next few weeks trying to figure out what they had accidentally found. There was no way to break the law that said things couldn't travel faster than light, but it was almost as good a way to push their makeshift propulsion system way beyond what it was supposed to be able to do. "It's so stupid," Thomas said with a laugh. We built this ship with three different types of drives that don't work together because we couldn't afford one good one. But it turns out what the messiness and incompatibility make chances that a clean system never would have. The interference patterns between the systems get stronger instead of weaker under the right condition. They named it resonance effect, and it changed everything. Control, this is Pioneer Spirit, Amira told Earth. We're changing the timeline for our mission. With the new propulsion system, we can get to the heliopause years ahead of schedule, and maybe even go into real interstellar space. Sarah's answer came back, and it was full of doubt. Pioneer, are you really saying that you've come up with a new way to move things? Not created control, trapped into. This group is good at making happy mistakes. The heliopause is the line where the sun's influence ends and the interstellar space begins. The old Voyager probes had reached it, but no crewed ship had ever done so. It was the edge of home for all of the humanity. In month 7, Pavana Spirit crossed it. The change wasn't very big. No clear line, no sudden change. Just telemetry showing that the solar wind had died down and been replaced by different radiation environment of space between stars. This is Commander Hassan. Amara wrote down for the record. At 1423 GMT, Pavana Spirit became the first ship with people on board to reach interstellar space. This ship is doing well. The crew is. We're trying to figure out what this means. We went away from home. We're really out here, in space between suns, on a ship made of scraps and dreams. Her voice got stuck. I wish who worked on this ship and believed in us could see this, could sense what we're going through. But the real discovery was still to come. Kenji Tanaka was unable to sleep. She was supposed to be resting, but something kept bothering her. She couldn't stop thinking about the organic signatures from Yorpa and the patterns Rachel had found. She opened the communication logs on a whim. The pioneer spirit's mismatched antennas were always scanning, listening to the noise from space and recording everything for later study. She changed the filters to look for patterns that were not random but structured, like the ones Rachel had found in the ice plumes. And she found something. Rachel, she called, waking the biologist. I need you to see something. Rachel was at her station a few minutes later, staring at the data with wide eyes. This is a radio signal. I know, a radio signal from a long time ago. The way it decays makes it look like it's been moving for thousands of years. That's what I thought too. But that's not possible, is it? Rachel looked up her own instrument and compared them. It's not from any of the star system we've recorded. The starting point is out in deep space, between systems. They woke Amira, who then woke the rest of the crew. Within an hour, everyone was crowded around the communication system, staring at the signal that shouldn't be there. It wasn't a message in usual way, not language, not math, not anything they could figure out. But it was definitely not real. Levy suggested that your patterns were too regular, too complicated, and too planned to be natural. An ancient civilization, something that died out thousands of years ago? Or a beacon, Carlos said. Something left behind on purpose that keeps sending out signals long after the people who made it are gone. They spent days trying to figure out what the signal meant. The distributed AI network worked on it with different modules, looking at the problem from different points of view and arguing about the best way to solve it. Finally, Dimitri had a big idea. It's not a message, he said. It's a map. He showed what he had found. The signal had exact mathematical relationships that, when plotted, showed where the stars were. The stars had moved in thousands of years since the signal was sent, so the positions weren't current. He could, however, trace everything back to where it was when the beacon was turned on, taking into account the drift of the stars. It shows a way, he said next, a way through deep space that links a number of star systems. I don't know why or what's at the end, but someone or something left this for others to find. The crew looked at each other. feeling the weight of what they had found. Rachel said, "We have to follow it." Nina replied, "We don't have enough supplies for a detour that far. Our mission parameters, our mission is to explore." Jack said softly, "To find out what's out there. This is the most important thing that has ever been found by humanity. An actual object from another intelligent being. We can't just say it exists and move on." The argument went on for hours. They talked to Earth, but there was a big delay in communication. Sarah and the ground team were also split up. Amira finally called for a vote. Everyone agreed they would use the map to get there. The course change meant that they had to use their resonance effect propulsion at levels they had never tried before. It was dangerous because the systems could fail or worse. But Thomas and Nina spent days getting ready, calculating and optimizing. "Here's what I love about this ship," Thomas said while getting ready. "On a traditional ship, this kind of course change would not be possible. Too risky and too far outside of normal limits. But Pioneer Spirit doesn't have any set limits. We've been making things up since day one. Why stop now?" The burn was very strong. The ship's three propulsion systems worked together perfectly for 6 hours, pushing it to its limit. The crew could feel the vibration through the hull, hear the metal groaning under stress, and see the temperature gauges rise into the yellow zone and sometimes kiss red. But the ship stayed afloat. When the fire was out, they were on a new path, following an old map left by people they didn't know, heading toward mysteries they couldn't even begin to imagine. "Mission Control," Amira said. "Hawaii steady," even though everyone was still full of adrenaline. "Please note that we have changed course. A new heading comes after the beacon coordinates. We are going deeper into space because someone wanted to be found." It took hours for Sarah to respond. They could tell Sarah was crying because of how her voice sounded. "Go ahead, Pioneer Spirit, and start your new mission. Everyone in the world is watching. Everyone is hoping. Learn about what's out there. Find out who sent that message. Come home and tell us." "Copy that, Control," Amira said. "We'll do our best not to let you down." The crew got ready for the long trip ahead. They were months away for the first coordinates on the map, moving through space at speeds no human had ever seen before, on a ship that shouldn't work, looking for an answer to a mystery that might not exist. Aisha set up evening get togethers where they could tell stories, play music, and stay human in the vast void of inhumanity. Maria's hydroponic garden became a safe place, a little piece of earth that grew in recycled water and artificial light. James looked at rocks they had collected on their trip and saw beauty in old stones that had never known air or life. And every night, someone would take a turn at the observation port, looking out at the strange stars and wondering what they would find at the end of the map. "Do you know what's crazy?" Jack said this one night while he was floating in the common area with a cup of recycled coffee. "We set out thinking the universe was dead. Microbial life was found on Europa. Then we found proof of an old intelligence. In 7 months, we did it all on a ship that cost 50 cents per person." "What do you mean?" Kenji asked. "What do you mean? My point is that the universe might not be dead. It could be just quiet. There could be millions of beacons like ours, left behind by civilizations that came and went, each one hoping that someone would find them one day. We might not be alone because we found aliens. We are not alone because we are all explorers, dreamers, and people who leave message for those who come after us." Rachel smiled. "That's surprisingly poetic, Jack. I'm old. It's okay for me to be poetic." These 12 people in their impossible ship laughed as they sped toward an old mystery, carrying the hopes of all of the humanity on their shoulders and in their hearts. No matter what they found, at the end of the beacon's map, they had already found something more important, that the universe might be big, cold, and mostly empty, but people's ability to be amazed, to hope, and to reach out into the dark with open hands was limitless. That made all the difference. The first coordinate on the map took 3 months to get to. For 3 months, the Biona spirit pushed through space that no human had ever seen before. 3 months of the crew working together, fighting boredom and excitement in equal measure, and keeping a ship running that needed daily coaxing. When they finally got to the right place, they found nothing. Nothing in the space. There is no planet, no station, and no clear beacon. Nothing at all. Scan everything, Amira said. There has to be something here. Rachel used her biological sensors. Carlos looked for electromagnetic signals. James looked at makeup of the dust and particles in the area. Levy looked for anything that was mechanical. Dimitri found it, almost by accident. He looked at the reading and said, "There's a gravitational anomaly. It's very small, but it shouldn't be here." There's not enough mass to explain it. They spent hours triangulating and finally found the source, an object about 50 meters wide that somehow absorbed all electromagnetic radiation, making it almost impossible to see unless you knew exactly where to look. Levy said, "It's fake and old. The way the surface is made up. I've never seen anything like it." "Can we come closer?" Amira asked. Thomas looked at the ship's status. "We can, but we have to be careful. We're not made to move around unknown object very well." It took hours of careful thruster work to get the approach right. Finally, the Pioneer spirit floated next to the strange object, close enough to see the details. It was beautiful in a strange way, with smooth surfaces, covered in patterns that could have been writing, decoration, or something else. No seams that can be seen, and no clear purpose. Carlos said all of a sudden, "I'm getting a signal, very faint. It's it's reacting to us." The artifact came to life, not in a big way, no lights or sound, but all of a sudden, their tools could see it clearly, as if it had taken off some kind of cover, and patterns started to show up in its surface, moving and changing. "It's the map," Dimitri said, sounding amazed. "It's showing us the next coordinate on the same star map as the beacon, but it's been updated to take into account stellar drift." "It's a point of interest," Jack said. "They left a chain of them. This one tells us we're going in the right direction and shows us where to go next." Rachel was using all of their tools to look at the artifact. "I don't see any signs of life, but there is definitely technology here. I don't know what the power source is. This thing has been here for thousands of years, waiting for someone to find it." Kenji asked slowly, "Are we on the way to something great? Or are we walking into a trap that was set thousands of years ago?" They didn't know how to answer it, but they had gone too far to go back. They wrote down everything they could, taking thousands of pictures and readings. After that, they followed the new map to get to the second coordinate. The same thing happened again and again over the next few months. Old waypoints, each one confirming their path, updating the map, and leading them deeper into unknown space. The artifacts were all different sizes and shapes, which suggest that different people or things made them. Rachel thought that there wasn't just one civilization. This is a group effort. Many species are working together to create a network of waypoints across the galaxy. "But why?" Nina asked. At the seventh waypoint, they found out what they needed to know. This one was not the same, bigger and more complicated. And when they got close, it didn't just update their map, it also turned on holographic display that filled the area around their ship. The screen showed the galaxy, their galaxy, but not the way it is now. This was a long time ago, thousands of years ago, and it was still alive. Dozens of star systems lit up, each one marked with symbols that they couldn't read but understood right away. Civilizations, life that is smart, people who had reached for the stars. Then the light went out one by one. Rachel said, "Oh God, they're showing us what happened." The hologram showed one disaster after another. Wars, environmental disasters, and technological disasters seemed to bring down some civilizations. Others just faded away, their lights getting dimmer over the years. Some were snuffed out by cosmic events like supernovas, gamma rays burst, and crashes with rogue planets. But the message was clear. Some civilizations grew, and others fell. There used to be a lot of voices in the galaxy, but now it's quiet, except for one last picture. This network was built by the last civilization that was still alive and knew its time was running out. A message, a map, and a chain of waypoints said, "You are not the first. You will not be the last. You are here. Remember us." The hologram went away, but something new showed up on their map. The last stop is clearly marked, a place on the edge of the galaxy, far away from any star. The crew didn't say anything for a long time. Amira finally spoke. "Mission Control, this is Payana Spirit. We've discovered the history of the galaxy. It's both beautiful and terrible. We're heading to the last coordinates. Whatever's there, it's what all of this was built to protect." Sarah replied, "Pioneer Spirit, the whole world has been watching your discoveries. You've already given humanity more than we ever thought possible. Whatever you find next, know that you've made us proud." It took 2 months to get to the last coordinates. The crew had 2 months to think about what they had learned and what it meant. Carlos said one night, "We're not special. This is what it teaches us. We're just the latest in a long line of species that wanted to reach the stars." "But we are not alone either," Kenji said in response. "Even if everyone else is gone, they left this for us. They wanted us to know they were here." "Is that enough?" Maria asked. "Is it better to know about dead civilizations than not know at all?" "Yes," Jack said with a lot of conviction, "because it means our lives matter. Every civilization that rose and fell added to the universe. They built, loved, dreamed, and left messages. And now we're here, reading those messages and adding our own chapter to the story." They were amazed by what they found when they finally got to the last coordinates. A building, big, old, and obviously man made. It hung in the space between galaxies, powered by something they couldn't understand. And it still worked after thousands of years. Dimitri read the signals. It was sending and said, "It's a library, a place where all the civilizations that helped build the waypoint network store their knowledge." The structure welcomed them, and its systems recognized the Biona spirit as the first visitors in thousands of years. The airlock hatches opened. The lights for the invitation came on. Myra said, "We're going in. Get dressed." The inside was amazing. Huge rooms full of data storage that was more than anything people could make. Holographic displays turned on as they passed, showing art, science, and history from dozens of species they had never heard before. "This is everything they were," Rachel said, her eyes full of tears. "Every species that knew it was going to die left something behind here so it wouldn't be forgotten." They spent weeks on the old library, downloading as much as their systems could handle and learning about civilizations that had become great and then fallen apart. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and builders had all made their mark. They found the last message in the middle room, not aimed at any one species, but at anyone who came after. "We were here. We lived. We loved. We dreamed. We built wonders and made mistakes. We reached for stars and found both triumph and tragedy. We leave this for you, whoever you are. Whenever you find it, learn from us. Do better than us. And when your time comes, as it must for all things, leave your own message for those who come after." The universe is vast and cold, but it is filled with the echoes of those who dared to exist beautifully. The 12 people on the Pioneer Spirit were from a planet called Earth. They stood in that room and cried for the species they would never meet and the future they were now a part of. Finally, Amira said, "We need to go home. Everyone needs to know what we have found." It took 8 months to get back to Earth. They had been gone for almost 2 years, which was a lot longer than the original plan called for. But they were alive. well, and carrying the most important thing that had ever been found by humans. Carlos picked up strange signal as they got closer to the solar system. Commander, you should look at this. Their sensors picked up dozens of ships, not ships from Earth. They were new designs that were clearly based on the Pioneer spirit, but better and more polished. Each one sent out the same message: Welcome home, Pioneer spirit. You showed us the way. People had not been lazy. The 50-cent spaceship success had started an evolution. While Pioneer spirit was out exploring, Earth had adopted the idea of space exploration that was cheap, flexible, and community driven. Universities, maker spaces, and even high schools had made their own ships, different from each other. They all solved problem in their own way. Some were going to Mars, some to the asteroid belt, and some were getting ready for their own mission in the space. Jack said, "It's beautiful," as he watched the flotilla of impossible ships. "We didn't just look around, we inspired." When they finally came back, Earth itself had changed. The old way of doing things, which involved expensive government run and exclusive space programs, was no longer working. There was something chaotic, messy, and much more alive in its place. The parade in New York City was too much to handle. People cheered for the crew from the streets, but more importantly, they were cheering for what the crew stood for. The idea that space was for everyone, not just a few elite people. Sarah stood on the stage with the crew and looked out at the crowd. 2 years ago, she said, her voice echoing through the city and the world. A man from Detroit came up with a crazy idea. Built a spaceship out of junk for 50 cents per person. They said it couldn't be done, but we did it anyway. The crowd cheered. The pioneer spirit wasn't perfect. It broke down all the time, was ugly, and needed daily maintenance and constant improvisation. But it worked. And more than that, it taught us something important. The best things don't come from having a lot of money or perfect technology. They come from people working together and refusing to believe that something is impossible. She pointed to the people next to her. These 12 people found life on Yorpa, created a new way to move things, found proof of ancient civilizations, and brought back knowledge that will change how we think about the universe. And they did it on a ship that cost less than one part of a regular spacecraft. But that's not their biggest accomplishment, Sarah said next. The best thing they did was show us what we can do. Look around you. The new space program is built, not in government building but in workshop, garages, and classrooms. Students are designing their own missions. Communities are pooling resources to build their own ships. And global cooperation has replaced national competition. She said, the universe is big and mostly empty, but it's full of possibilities. And now we know that every civilization has a choice. Thanks to the message left by ancient species, they can either withdraw into fear and limitation or reach out with hope and imagination. People have made their choice. We reach. The crowd went wild, and Sarah stepped back to let Jack take the mic. He smiled and said, I'm just a guy from Detroit. I worked in factories, fixed cars, and taught myself engineering because I was curious. I'm not special. He stopped for a moment. But that's the point, isn't it? I'm not special, and I helped build a starship. Everyone here has the same potential. Every community, city, and country can reach for the stars with the resources they have right now. Jack went on. The 50-cent spaceship wasn't about being cheap. It was about making something possible. It was about taking what you have, money, skills, or just determination, and building something that matters. The universe doesn't care how much your ship cost. It only cares that you had the guts to build it. In the months that followed, people looked at, shared, and talked about the information from the old library. People learned from the failures and successes of species that are no longer alive. New technologies didn't come about because people tried to copy alien designs. They came about because people were inspired by how aliens think. The pioneer spirit itself was put in a museum, but its legacy lived on. The distributed AI method became the norm. The propulsion system for the resonance effect was improved and made better. The idea that systems should be flexible and strong instead of perfect and weak spread to all the fields, not just space exploration. Grace Kimani stood in the museum and looked up at the ship, for which she had sewn fabrics. She was 92 years old, but her eyes were still bright. There was a little girl next to her, maybe 8 years old, who was staring at the ship in awe. The girl said, "It's not very pretty." Grace laughed. "No, child, it's not. But that's what makes it so pretty." "I don't get it," Grace said. "This ship was made from things that were broken, things that other people threw away. But loving hands took those things and made them into something that touched the stars. It shows us that nothing is truly useless if we can see its potential." That made the girl think. "My teacher says we're making a ship out of things we don't need anymore. Are you now? What is it for?" "The older kids will send it to Mars. I'm helping with the design though." Grace smiled as she thought about her grandfather's village school was built with nothing but hard work. "That's great. What's the name of your ship?" "The Impossible Dream 2," the girl said with pride. "Perfect," Grace said. "Perfectly fine." There were dozens of new ships being built above Earth, in orbits on the moon, and in the groaning settlement on Mars. Everyone is different and shows creativity and dreams of people who built it. Some would succeed, some would fail, but they all learned from the pioneer spirit that the impossible is just the possible waiting for someone brave enough to try. And in the far reaches of deep space, the old library kept watch, its systems adding a new entry to the eternal log of civilizations that had tried to reach the stars. People, they come from a planet they called Earth. They built a ship out of junk and hope. They found our messages and added their own. They are classified as dreamers, doing well, and have a good chance of success. The galaxy was still very big, still mostly empty, still full of the quiet of species that are no longer around, and the whispers of those that are. But it wasn't as lonely anymore, and at night, millions of people on Earth looked up at stars and thought about how they could touch them too. It only took 50 cents and the guts to reach.